morning, guys, and welcome to the Monday Movie Memo, where we like to talk about things that happened over the weekend, look ahead to things that are coming up in the week, and maybe get you guys prepared for some of the bigger stories that are going to hit the web and Cinema Blend specifically. And while this is X-Men Days of Future Past week, we have to talk about Godzilla 2, because it's coming. It's happening. Godzilla over the weekend opened to $93 million domestically. It added an additional $103 million at the global box office, which means that by the time the dust has settled, Godzilla is racing towards $200 million, a bona fide hit for Warner Brothers and for Legendary Pictures. And before the weekend had even concluded, the studios suggested or confirmed or basically told us what we knew was going to happen, and that's Godzilla 2 is in the works. And I think that's a bad idea. And it doesn't necessarily have to do with the fact that I was disappointed in Godzilla, although I was for different reasons. I want to title this episode of the Monday Movie Memo, Not Everything Needs to be a Franchise, or an alternate subtitle could be, Every Major Hit Doesn't Need a Sequel, automatically. Godzilla was great, and there are reasons, well, no. The success of Godzilla is great for the industry. I think the movie had problems, and I think that they certainly can be addressed in a sequel. But one of the reasons why I think that Godzilla was as successful as it was is that the appetite for Godzilla was large. People hadn't seen a Godzilla movie in 16 years. 1998 was the Roland Emmerich Godzilla film. It was the last time we'd seen Godzilla on the big screen in a dedicated film to the creature in a very long time. Godzilla's not the kind of creature where we get a new film every 2 years, like the X-Men or the Marvel movies, the Fast and Furious films, my beloved Spider-Man, who is the perfect example that a studio should learn that, diminishing returns of providing too much for a character in a short amount of time. This could happen to Godzilla. Now, I'm not saying it's going to, but I'm just saying that it could. I don't think that Godzilla, that the filmmakers went into this Godzilla thinking franchise. There are Easter eggs, and we're going to talk about them on the site in a little bit. And there are places you can obviously go with Godzilla, because the weaknesses of the film were the human characters and the pacing, and you could very easily just have Godzilla emerge from the ocean in another area and reboot without having to reboot, because the focus is always on the creature, and you could just introduce a new world and a new threat. And we've already seen these passionate columns on the internet of I saw the hint of Mothra, or it's going to be another type of major kaiju, or God help us, we're going to get to the point where we're pushing for Godzilla vs. King Kong again, directed by Peter Jackson, coming to a theater near you in 2023. But sometimes something can just be a standalone hit. Sometimes we can satisfy an audience's need because the need is there, and people wanted to see a Godzilla movie done right. And the stars kind of aligned because Warner and Legendary found a filmmaker in Gareth Edwards who had directed this little indie film Monsters and seemed to have the sensibilities to bring Godzilla back to the big screen, and they did it. And people responded, and it made a lot of money. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to go right ahead and make Godzilla 2. I don't think everything needs to be a franchise. I don't think every success needs to generate a sequel. I don't think we need Neighbors 2 because people tend to like Zac Efron and Seth Rogen in this particular comedy. This comedy worked. This Godzilla worked. Now, Godzilla 2 may arrive in 2 to 3 years and it might be fantastic. But the mindset of, oh, we got a hit, let's do it again, and again, and again, and again, and again, and again. It's damaging. It's watering down product. I'd rather Hollywood go back and find something from 16 years ago that's broken. Because Godzilla was broken. Like, I don't remember what the reaction to the Emmerich film was at the time. But history has not been kind to that film. And Godzilla needed to be done again. He did. He needed to be done again. But there's got to be something else that bombed a few years back that Hollywood can do better, that they can repair, find a new voice from a different director, use the effects that have improved over the years, redo that. Don't force Godzilla into a franchise. Although, I mean, I get that there have been multiple ones, I just wish it could be this own little standalone fruit where it did its own thing and was successful at doing its own thing, and we didn't need to keep whacking at the piñata for part 2, part 3, part 4, because we think more candy's going to fall out. I want them to do a sequel because they have an idea that is so strong that they can't ignore it. And I don't want that idea to be box office receipts, which tends to be the case nowadays. Tell me if I'm way off. Maybe you're thrilled that Godzilla 2 is happening and happening as quickly as we think it's going to happen. Maybe you want Gareth Edwards to be locked up in the Godzilla franchise for the next coming years. And I don't know if he's been confirmed as the director of the next one, and I don't know if he's interested in it. But, you know, right now, as much as I love the Spider-Man movies, Mark Webb is in a bit of Spider-Man jail because he's been doing the film for years. Does Gareth Edwards deserve that? Or do you want to see him go on to do other things? Maybe they should pass the baton to a different filmmaker and have another Godzilla, but from a completely different perspective, with a new voice and a new angle and a new filmmaker. Maybe that would work. But I heard the news on Sunday that Godzilla 2 is happening. The wheels are turning very quickly, and it's because it's a reaction to the box office receipts. And it made me sad, because I think that sequels should be... it's so silly to say it out loud. I think sequels should be driven by creative decisions and not financial decisions. And what kind of pie-in-the-sky world do I live in, I guess. I'm not saying I'm opposed to a Godzilla film, but I want them to make it for the right reasons. And not just because franchises are the way of the future and everything that's a hit needs to be hits multiple times for the next 5 to 10 years. So tell me if you disagree. Tell me if you think that Godzilla 2 is the best idea that Hollywood's ever had. Weigh in the comment section below. We're going to have plenty more Godzilla coverage coming up on the site in the next few days and over the course of the week, but we're definitely shifting into X-Men Days of Future Past gears as well, too. We're going to have pieces on Godzilla Easter eggs. We're going to have commentary about the acceptance of collateral damage and the fact that all of our cities get leveled in major blockbusters, and humanity's sort of okay with that now. We're going to have a few more of our columnists on the site weighing in on some of the issues that they had with Gareth Edwards' Godzilla. I know Christy gave it a 5 out of 5, but a few of our writers also spotted a few problems that they're going to want to point out. So keep it locked into Cinema Blend. Weigh in with all your Godzilla comments, your X-Men Days of Future Past comments and hopes. Continue to read Cinema Blend. And of course, thank you so much for tuning in to the latest episode of the Monday Movie Memo.